At the time of writing this, I'm coming off the back of just finishing and listening to the Mockingjay audiobook as read by Caroline McCormick. Leo Chase from Mythmaster here to tell you why I firmly believe that The Hunger Games is the best book series ever written. I'm going to try and not make this video too long, and honestly, even if it was longer, I doubt I could convey everything that makes the series so great, and I'm not even sure if I'll be able to truly put any of my thoughts into words here, but I'm going to try. And also just to say, there will be full spoilers ahead for everything Hunger Games related. The first part I want to touch upon is the character of Katniss Everdeen, the driving force behind everything that happens in these books. Her narration and journey over the course of the first three books are so well put together and written, and just make her feel so human. From the get-go, you perfectly understand her motivations, and as the readers we see her both as she really is, but we also learn how others view her at the same time that she does. Her history as a hunter, and the one who keeps her family alive, makes her a perfect candidate for the first Hunger Games. Well, the 74th, but you know what I mean. In the Hunger Games series, every character matters, and side characters are given incredible amounts of depth, but no one ever gets close to overshadowing Katniss, and all mirror her or her thoughts or affect her in some way. Basically, it always leads back to her, and we feel the impact that other characters have on her, because one of the most defining attributes of Katniss Everdeen is that she always protects the ones she cares about, or tries her hardest to at least. In the first book, this focuses on her doing her best to survive so that she can get back to her family, Prim in particular, while also coming across Rue and losing her, only for her feelings about Peter to change and evolve, and for him to be the primary focus of her protection in Book 2, doing whatever she can to help him survive, with no regard for her own life. And this lack of regard for herself is one of the things which makes her so interesting, with how her will waxes and wanes in respect to what is happening to the ones that she cares about. And this is most apparent in Book 3, Mockingjay, where there are multiple times where she just loses all the will to live and loses all hope, such as when Peter attacks her after he's been rescued, more importantly with the loss of Prim, and everything that follows that, but I'll touch more on that later. The next part that I want to talk about is basically an extension of the last part, but it is the relationship between Katniss and Snow. For someone who we barely actually see, Snow has the biggest impact on the character of Katniss, starting merely as the president for most of Book 1, but becoming more and more realized as the series progresses. Katniss and Snow only have two proper one-on-one conversations if I remember correctly, but they are maybe the best parts of the entire series, and barely scratch the surface of the relationship. The first is in Katniss's house in the Victor's village, and it is when he pays her a visit to tell her about the uprisings she has inadvertently caused, and tells her how she must proceed if she wants her loved ones to live. He shows her his power by revealing that he knows about Gale, and that he doesn't believe the love story between her and Peter, but he also reveals that she is a threat to him. But the most important thing to come from this is one of my favourite quotes in all of fiction. While President Snow does have a lot of incredible lines, I think his most important one is, "I think we'll make this whole situation a lot simpler by agreeing not to lie to each other." This one line sparks a dynamic that I believe will never be matched in a book or movie ever again. Katniss and Snow understand each other perfectly, and this allows them to basically read into whatever actions the other does. Throughout the remainder of Book 2 and Book 3, Katniss is always thinking about President Snow, and this is symbolized in one thing: roses. Okay, the roses are a Book 3 thing, and I will talk about them, but first I want to finish talking about Snow and Katniss in Book 2. There is a constant pressure throughout all of the Victory Tour that culminates in the announcement that the tributes from the third quarter quell will be reaped from the pool of existing victors, and this is the first time that we see Katniss truly break. But back to the roses. The roses are an unspoken message whose scent immediately strikes fear into Katniss's heart and breaks any resolve she has whenever she sees them, from the singular rose in her room, to the mountain dropped on District 13, and finally to the rose-smelling lizard mutts that tear Finnick apart. Then we come to Katniss and Snow in the greenhouse. This is when he has lost and she is now the one with the power. It is a turning point in their relationship, and is where their promise truly comes into fruition, as he reveals to her that it was the rebels who got her sister, the one that she was protecting all this time, killed. I've seen that there's a debate whether this is true or not, but Katniss comes to the conclusion that it is true, due to various things that have happened over the book, but what convinces me is the promise not to lie to each other, which he once again brings up in that very conversation. As terrible of a man as Snow is, and he admits that himself in that conversation, I believe that, in his own twisted way, he sticks to his word, and this is one of the things that makes him such a terrifying and well-crafted villain. The next 4 sections will all be quicker, as what I've previously said are the main reasons for why The Hunger Games is so amazing, and why it makes me feel so much when reading it. Right now I want to talk about the ending, and by that I mean basically everything past the conversation in the greenhouse. After agreeing to one last Hunger Games, Katniss shoots Coin because she realizes that Coin would be just as bad as Snow, and that she just wants power, and then Katniss tries to end it all only to be stopped by Peter. While her agreeing to the games may seem out of character, I think one of the reasons she did it was to appear to be on Coin's good side, and that Haymitch realizes this, as the relationship between him and Katniss is another great one of unspoken things, and this one has apparent hatred, which is, in truth, just understanding. And the next character shares the same relationship with Katniss that Haymitch does, and is the reason I actually have this section, and that is Buttercup. I think that Buttercup is an amazing character, and not just because he's a cat, but also because he's a mirror to Katniss, a hunter who cares for Prim, and is fiercely protective of her, while also not being the easiest to get along with. The scene with him arriving back at the Victor's village, and Katniss shouting at him and trying to get him away, before just breaking down about Prim, is maybe the most powerful moment in the series for me. The rest of the ending with the Book of the Dead, Katniss and Peter's children, Deep in the Meadow, Real or Not Real, and the last line of the book are a perfect end to the trilogy, and one of those things brings me nicely onto my next section. This section will probably be even shorter than the last, but I just want to touch upon the use of songs in the Hunger Games series. They nearly always reflect freedom in a way, as they are something that the characters always have, and the times that Katniss loses her voice are when she's at her lowest in the series. The most important are Deep in the Meadow and The Hanging Tree, both of which are heartbreaking in their own way. Rue's death scene is the most impactful death scene in all of fiction in my opinion, and brings me close to tears nearly every time I come across it. And The Hanging Tree is tragic yet also significant, probably even more significant than Deep in the Meadow, to the series as a whole. And the songs are a key part of the next 2 things I'm going to be talking about, which is basically the expanded media. The Hunger Games movies contend with the Lord of the Rings Extended Edition movies for the greatest book adaptations ever put to screen. Neither are perfectly accurate, but it is impossible to have an absolutely perfect adaptation. The first thing that the movies nail is the cast. Jennifer Lawrence is perfect as Katniss and manages to convey so much in so little time, so that you can always tell what she is thinking, especially if you've read the books. Donald Sutherland is cold and sinister as President Snow, and his voice speaks every word with force and impact, with Woody Harrelson and Elizabeth Banks bringing Haymitch and Effie to life, and the 2 of them maybe being even better than their book counterparts, or at least aren't as worse. For Haymitch, it's just because Woody Harrelson is perfect as him, and for Effie, it's that she's given a lot more to do, especially in films 3 and 4, where she takes the place of other characters, which is sometimes necessary when trying to condense things down to a film format. The second thing they nail is the songs. The background music in the district, the capital, and the games are great pieces of environmental storytelling, and the two songs keep the impact that they hold in the books, and actually let us hear them being done by the actual characters. Finally, we have the prequels. It's very rare that sequels and prequels come close to the level of the originals, and sometimes they even harm them, but Suzanne Collins slapped it out of the park with The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Sunrise on the Reaping, both of which turn secondary characters into protagonists and add to our views of them in the original series without damaging them or changing them. These characters are obviously Snow and Haymitch, but the prequels do more than just build on those two, they build on the entire world. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes gives us a better look at the origins of the games and how they came to be, how they are later, as well as giving us context and the origins of the Hanging Tree song, which sometimes could feel unnecessary or hammed in, but is handled very well in the book. It adds even more songs to the mythos, and even makes us see things from the original, like the lake and the lake house in a whole new way. Sunrise on the Reaping gives us a backstory for Haymitch, but also for characters such as Plutarch, Beatty, Mags, and even Effie. It expands upon Snow as well, and shows us what happens to a victor's family when they aren't publicly known and adored, as well as having an epilogue with the characters that we know and love, feeling just like themselves, despite Collins not having written them in around 15 years. Sunrise on the Reaping is probably my most anticipated movie of the year, and if you want any more of my thoughts on it, I'd recommend checking out the video I made on it. I think that concludes everything I have to say, and please comment your thoughts on the series down below. If you haven't read the books, or listened to the audiobooks, I would strongly recommend that you do. Have a good day, and ta-ta.